Sports. I'm back with some picks. I don't know. Thought I changed it up a little bit. So, got a couple of plays for you guys. I know I said in the last video, I'm going to try to keep this week a little bit lighter. I think the last 2 weeks we had like 11 plays, and the week before that was like 8 or 10 or something like that. So, it is going to be lighter than that. I think right now it's probably going to be like 6 plays, 5 to 6 for the week. One thing I do want to start off with, guys, is that unfortunately there was a forecast change, a weather forecast. So one of the plays I gave yesterday, I'm taking off the board. So if you're like me and you've already played it, if you have it in the bankroll, I would go in there and basically just bet the opposite. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Colts at the 49ers. We had taken it over 44 yesterday, and I think it was probably like minus 120, depending on your book. Maybe it was like minus 115. The weather forecast has been changed, and it is supposed to be heavy rain, not just during the game, but the entire day. Heavy rain. Should be a very windy day. It's projected to be 20 mile per hour winds during the game. If you were not already aware of this, San Francisco is an outdoor stadium, so it's going to be probably an uglier game. It's possible that it goes over. I mean, it's still football. Maybe it dries up a little bit as we get closer to actual game day, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Every projection, every weather forecast has it being the entire day. If it's one of these games where, hey, it's just like it's going to rain like right at game time, maybe the forecast changes so that it's like right after the game, or maybe only like half of the game. In this case, where it's the whole day, and most of these weather forecasts have it even like the day before and the day after, I don't think we're going to have any luck in the weather changing. So prepare yourselves for a slow-paced game, a lot of running, not a lot of passing opportunities. I mean, they're still going to go out there, but again, it's going to be very hard to pass in those kind of conditions. So I don't see that being a huge scoring game, especially when both teams have such great running attacks. I don't think either one of them is going to feel compelled to go out there and throw it all over the yard in those conditions. So if you haven't already bet the over, I would now bet the under 44 in that game. If you have bet the over, like I said, I literally went in there and I bet back on the under, just to basically get out of that game. If you want to, for whatever reason, stay on the over, and maybe want to hedge it, you can try and fit it into like a teaser to take the under somewhere else. But again, I wanted to give you guys this disclaimer. I'm taking it off the board, and I apologize because I know that eats into your bankroll to have to do that. So I'm sorry about that, but I did want to tell you before it gets too much later and the number keeps changing. Aside from that, though, let's get into some picks now. So the first one I'm looking at is the Rams-Lions. I had let off with this one last week, and I told you this is going to be a demolishment game. Sean McVay, this is his first chance to coach against Jared Goff in an actual game. And first of all, Jared Goff is not good. But aside from that, Sean McVay knows exactly how to take advantage of Jared Goff. He knows exactly where his weaknesses are at. He knows where Jared Goff wants to go with the ball. He knows pretty much everything there is to know about this guy. And he worked with him for, 4 years or whatever the hell it was. Jared Goff has still not got a win that wasn't coached by Sean McVay. Sean McVay is going to just tear this guy apart. I mean, this is seriously one of those, like, man, it might be so bad that Jared Goff loses his job after this. I'm being hypothetical here, but still. The line came out at 14 or 14 and a half, I think is what it came out at. It got bumped up to 15 in a few spots. And before I went and just laid money on it, because that's such a huge spread, I did want to really get into the weeds on this one and make sure, like, hey, there's not something that I'm missing here that I'm going to be totally blindsided by once I lay the money down. So I went through, I researched it. Defensively, well, really, everything is pointing in the Rams' direction, as you would expect. But to get into DVOAs and things like that, offensively, the Rams are the third best team by DVOA. Defensively, they are the fourth best team by DVOA. The Lions have had the 18th easiest schedule offensively and the 26th easiest defensive schedule, which is the 6th hardest. So they've had a pretty hard run as far as playing against good defenses. They're going to, again, play against a decent defense in the Rams. Yeah, the Rams have given up some big plays here and there, but overall, the Rams know how to win their games and they know how to keep their opponents down. But the Lions so far had been kind of lucky, or they've been about average as far as who they play against on offense. This is going to by far be the best offense they've seen all year, and I don't think they have a way to stop it. Strength of schedule overall, they're about even. Rams had the 23rd easiest. Lions had the 24th easiest schedule. Grading wise, my prediction here was 32 to 11. So you round these again to really what the closest key numbers would be, or most relevant numbers for football are concerned. And that's about 31 for the Rams and 10 for the Lions. So it's about a 21 point differential. One thing, guys, this is really important, and again, like I said, it's the time of the year where the algorithms start kind of kicking because you have enough data input. One thing that's been really cool to watch is that the standard deviation for any NFL team is a touchdown, meaning that usually they're going to be within one touchdown of a certain number, and you kind of, you have to find out what that number is. My coaching algorithm has finally got to the point where teams are within one standard deviation of my projected score, meaning that the Rams should score anywhere from 39 to 25 points. They're going to fall in that range somewhere. If they have a good day or bad day, that's about where it's going to be. The Lions, on the other hand, are going to land anywhere really from 18 to 4. So let's say 7 to 17 points. I mean, obviously, yes, there are times where it's going to deviate more than that. But for the most part, and by the most part, I mean by 85 to 90% of the time, that's the score that they're going to have. And this is just who they are. They can't do really any better or too much better than that, barring a huge change. So even if we say the Rams get the lower of that standard deviation, we say they end up with, let's call it 27 points, and the Lions get their high end, meaning they get 18, so let's round that to 17, that's still a 10-point victory. So that's at the very minimum the Rams should win by 10 points. What we are hoping for, obviously, is that does not happen, and for both of those deviations to hit, that's, I don't want to say very rare, but it's a little bit on the more difficult side as far as both of those things to come in handy. Usually what happens is one or the other, meaning the Rams will be up 1 and the Lions will be down 1, or vice versa. But in this case, I really believe it's going to be about a 20-point win for the Rams. That's per my projections. If you look at the DVOA quarterback ratings and basically with the Madden algorithm that we have been following this whole year, Madden actually has it as a 24-point win for the Rams. So anywhere from 20 to 24 points is what we should expect the Rams to win by. Current line is 14.5. Now, I did buy it down to 14, and I'm going to tell you why here in just a second, but I bought it down to 14, so I had the Rams minus 14 as one of my favorite picks for this week. Again, riding with the Rams, I really love it, and they're just a great offense playing against a team they should totally demolish, and it is a revenge game, if you believe in that, for Sean McVay, who I think is just not so much out for revenge, but I think he's just going to know how to play Jared Goff. So let's get to the next one here. This is the Ravens-Bengals. Ravens demolished the Chargers last week, and it really set up a trend that I had not noticed yet, but I think is very imperative moving forward. If you look at the teams that the Ravens have beat, they all have really terrible defensive EDSR numbers, meaning that they give up a lot of plays, a lot of points. Got teams like the Chiefs, the Chargers. They both have defenses that, one, will allow you to run, but two, usually let you have a decent day on offense. And what the Bengals are is exactly the opposite. The Bengals, if you weren't already aware of this, are actually the 5th best team by defensive DVOA. The Ravens have had the 5th easiest schedule to date, if you go by defense, meaning that they play a lot of very easy defenses who are going to give up a lot of yards and kind of try to play the opposite way. They're going to try to give up defensive and win offensively. The teams that the Ravens have lost to, like the Raiders in week 1, have good defenses. They've been able to kind of clamp down on what the Ravens can do, and when they get stymied a little bit and the run game isn't working for them as well, they have a hard time winning games. Now, I'm not saying that they won't win this game, but I am saying that the Bengals are going to present a really tough challenge for them. It's going to be one of the toughest defenses they've played this year. Offensively, though, the Bengals are also able to keep up with them. If you look at the Madden algorithm does have the Ravens as about a 7-point favorite, so we're really not far off. But I think that's the best case scenario because Madden is not really taking into consideration the strength of schedule issue. That's the only thing that the Madden algorithm does not really have in mind. And yeah, the DVOA says one thing. The DVOA says that the Ravens have a 10% offensive DVOA. Again, keep in mind they played a lot of soft defenses. So with that being known, we're going to just slightly tick that down a little bit. When it comes to defensive scores or defensive DVOA, it also says that the Ravens are, pretty good as far as negative 1.3. That's good for the 14th best defensive DVOA, so about average. But they've also played the 15th easiest, so pretty average offensive schedule so far. Now, obviously, the Chiefs were not the average portion, but the Bengals, while they haven't had a lot of success on offense yet, and they are ranked the 19th offense by DVOA, they also have had to deal with some injuries to a guy like T. Higgins and Joe Mixon missing some time. So with these guys getting back healthy, I think we can see just a little bit of an uptick from them. And either way, I don't think this ends up being a 7-point game. My grading projections have this at about a 3 to 4 point game. Well, it really has it at 4. It has it as a 28 to 24 score. I just truly believe you're probably looking at closer to a 3 to 4 point score. I don't think this is going to be a 7-point score. And for all of those reasons, mainly the Bengals being a really good defense and hopefully stopping the Ravens, or not stopping, but slowing them down and just giving them different looks, different obstacles that the Ravens haven't had to face yet this year. I think that the Ravens are going to end up in a very close game. Maybe they do still win this one, but either way, I think it's going to be a field goal kind of game. So I am taking the Bengals. Now it is at plus 6.5 right now. Again, I bought it up, so it's going to be plus 7. So it'll be Bengals plus 7 as the second pick here. The other two picks that were already in that we had talked about previously involved the Patriots. It was Patriots minus 7, and then the Patriots Jets under 42. So that's 4 picks so far that we have for this week. There is one last one that I wanted to talk about, and that is actually going to be, one second, the Browns and the Broncos. If you didn't already hear, Nick Chubb is going to be out for this upcoming game. He still is dealing with a calf injury. I'm sure everyone has heard about Kareem Hunt's injury. I'm not sure what the hell. He got shot in the calf or something. He just collapsed on the field. So he's going to be out. The Browns are also trying to get back both offensive tackles, but I really think those guys are also missing this week. Odell Beckham is nursing an injury. He doesn't show up on the injury report, but he did have he took a shot last week, which maybe he's not on the injury report, but I have a very hard time believing that he's 100% healthy after last week. Baker Mayfield also keeps saying he's going to play. I would not be surprised if he's a last-second decision and he ends up getting taken out of this game, because he does have a shoulder injury to his non-throwing arm. But he has just been a very different quarterback since he took that injury. He's just had a hard time connecting on passes. He doesn't run as much as he used to. It seems like he's hesitant to take shots on that shoulder. Aside from that, Jarvis Landry is still on the injury report. They said he was getting better, but he has still not been officially taken off the injury report. So the Browns are really going to be piecing together some things on offense. And not to say that they can't overcome that, especially with Kevin Stefanski. I think he'll probably use his tight ends more, and he should be able to maybe coach around a lot of these injuries, but it does still make an impact on your team. Not to mention, the Broncos are a heavy blitzing team. They blitz over 30% of the time on defense. And the biggest issue that the Browns have had is Baker under pressure. He is terrible under pressure. He makes bad decisions. He's inaccurate. He mostly just wastes downs when he gets under pressure. And especially if they are missing both of their offensive tackles, the Broncos are going to have pressure on him. They're going to be getting after him all day long. I do think the Browns find a way to win this game. And I have them right now at about a 6-point favorite. But I also think that the Broncos are going to really limit their scoring, especially with the injuries. On the other side of the ball, when the Broncos have the ball, the Browns defensively have done pretty decently, but the Broncos, just by their nature, want to be very conservative. They want to run the ball, they want to have short passes, they want to keep everything close to the line of scrimmage. They're asking Teddy Bridgewater to play a clean game, not make mistakes, play the clock, and just win the possession game, and that's how they like to win their games. Now, the Broncos have not had a lot of success when they play against a team that's, not like a bottom 5 team, so I don't see them coming out to a lead here with the Browns, or at least, not just stepping on their throats or anything like that. Both of these teams are going to have issues when they are on offense. I think this is going to be a very, very slow game. It is a Thursday night game, so there's not a lot of time for rest and healing. And even for like a team like the Broncos, who's the healthier of the two, they're still going to be somewhat recovering, because this is no longer the week 2, week 3 Thursday night game, guys. This is already week 7. So these guys have been playing now for 7 weeks. They are, starting to feel the toll of the season. They're kind of nursing some maybe, cuts and bruises and all this other kind of stuff. So I really expect a lower scoring game in this one, and the under 42 is my pick. Again, I just think the Broncos defense is going to really get in the face of the Browns. And while the Browns should find a way to still move this ball, I don't think it's going to be an offensive free-for-all. They're going to probably have a lot of 3-and-outs, a lot of punts, play a lot of field position games, be very conservative because they don't want to get more people hurt, especially knowing they don't have a lot of people in the back. The Broncos, on the other hand, are going to play their game, play their slow-paced, let's just pass it like 5 yards at a time. They may take a few shots downfield. They may take 2, 3, 4 shots down the field to just open things up. But the couple of games, or the games that they played this year, Teddy has not been able to connect on those very frequently. He might hit one a game, maybe. And as soon as they get that lead, if it comes from that big shot, they're going to play very conservatively. So again, the winner, I'm not entirely positive ends up being the Browns, but I would lean that way. But either way, I think this is going to be a very low-scoring game. I currently have it projected as about 24-17, and I think that's even a little bit too high because of the injuries. I don't feel that I have quantified them enough, so maybe even be like a 24-14 kind of game. I think 24-17 is probably the highest that I would expect this game to go. So under 42 is my prediction for that, and that's the bet I am making on that game. There is one other play that I'm looking at for this week, and it is the Eagles-Raiders under. Now, I will tell you, that game right now is at 49.5, but there's a few reasons that I'm looking for it, and then I'm waiting on it. So one, as we get further in the week and closer to actual game day, I do think you're going to see money coming in on the over for that. And assuming that it does come, we may be able to get that at like a 50 or even a 51. If the public can push it up to 50.5 for us, I don't have a problem buying it up to 51 and then taking the under on the 51. I actually currently have that game capped at about a 41-point result, total, I guess I should say. Again, with a standard deviation, let's say that there is only one extra touchdown score that we're not expecting. That would put us at 48, meaning that the 49.5 that's out there right now is still a good score. That's still a good under for us. But obviously, if we can get to the 51, that's going to help even more, as it does give us just that little bit of extra leeway in case of an extra field goal or any other deviations. More importantly, though, Clete Blakeman is refereeing that game. So exactly what I thought was going to happen has been happening with Clete Blakeman. The 2 games that he has refed, that are in prime time and are island games, he has had those games go over. He has been, I don't know if he's been instructed or coached or what, but he does not throw as many flags during those games. This is not one of those games. This is going to be like a afternoon game, and I don't think he's going to be as lenient with the flags this time. I think we are going to see some more flags. You're going to see some things get called back. Both of these offenses are okay, but I think that you are going to see a lot of passing, but it's going to be underneath kind of passing. A lot of slant routes, a lot of Darren Waller, a lot of just, let's just stay ahead of the chains kind of stuff. And yeah, you probably will see 1 or 2 big shots, maybe even completed big shots down the field to guys like Henry Ruggs and Quez Watkins, which is great, but there is a very good opportunity that those get called back under Clete Blakeman. And if they do not get called back, I still don't think we have enough of those to warrant like a 51-point total. So, again, I'm looking at the under on that game. I most likely will be playing the under on that game, but I have not pulled the trigger on it just yet because I want to see how high the public will get that score for me. On that note, there's a few things I want to mention regarding this week. One, the last 2 weeks, the public has won. They have been raking in the money, and that's great. No one's going to cry. No one's going to say, oh my God, let's donate some money to Vegas. But every time that happens, and I've said this before, every time that happens, the books will adjust the lines and they will set their traps to make sure that they get that money back. That's just the way it is. That's the way that Vegas works. Knowing that, we have to know what the public likes to do. The public likes to bet overs and they like to bet favorites. Vegas is going to do 2 things. They're going to, 1, set a line that seems inappropriate, and you're going to have to take the part that seems maybe inappropriate. For instance, this Browns game, the Browns-Broncos, is at 42. Your average Joe whatever seeing that over-under on a Thursday night where he's just, hey, I just want to bet something, I just want to get some action on this game, he's saying 42 points, hell, they could accidentally get to 42. Let's take the over. And that's exactly what the books want you to do. And then when it comes to betting favorites, there's some favorites this week that, like the Ravens. Joe Public guy just saw the Ravens just curb stomp the Chargers last week. He's thinking, oh man, they did that to the Chargers. They're one of the better teams in the NFL. There's no way the Bengals are going to hold up with these guys. I'm laying the 7 points with the Ravens. The Bengals, again, surprise underdog. The public is going to be on the Ravens. Sharps and the books are going to be on the Bengals. I'm just telling you this way it is going to be right now. And that's why when we look at these picks, or if you're making your own picks this week, keep that in mind. This is one of the few weeks, and I usually don't really talk a lot about like the sharp square divide because anybody can win. Squares win, sharps win, everybody wins, everybody loses. But this is one of the few weeks that I could tell you the books are out to get the public. They are consistently setting traps this week if you look at the card. So whatever the general public is saying, do the opposite. Do your homework. Really research into these teams, strength of schedules, DVOAs, average field position, all that stuff is going to come into play. Don't just say, oh, this team has been looking good, and I think that this team is going to beat this other team. Know your shit. It happens every week. I mean, every year. Every year there's at least 1 week where the public just gets hosed bad, and it's usually right after the books have taken it up the ass. So I'm just telling you, this is probably that week. Be on the lookout for that, and it wouldn't be surprising if next week I'm talking to you and we say, yeah, like almost all the underdogs hit. That's why. So just, again, be aware of that. And then lastly, guys, I want to show you this because I'm hearing a lot of talk about key numbers this year, and I mean, we usually do. A lot of podcasts, a lot of touts, they all talk about key numbers and getting to 7 and whatever else, they're talking about as far as numbers are concerned. And I do too. I'm not excluding myself from that. I talk a lot about key numbers. But one thing that I have noticed, and like I said, and I've talked about this almost every week, I track the performance of these numbers. Is 3 really a key number? Is 7 really a key number? And it's not just once in a while, it's every single week. I track it, and I keep a season-long log as to how well each number has done, how often it comes up. And I can tell you that this year has been an anomaly. It has been crazy that the 7 has not been as big a key number as we have seen in the past. Same thing with the 14. Both of those in the past were huge key numbers. Maybe not the 14 so much, but the 7 was a bigger key number. The 7 was showing up like 8 to 9% of the time. The 14 was probably showing up like 6% of the time. And so what that means is one of two things. Either one, there is a big regression coming, meaning that the 14 is going to show up a lot more. Same thing with the 7 as we continue into this year. Or two, something has fundamentally changed that makes these key numbers not so key anymore. One thing that I have noticed, and you've probably noticed this too, these extra points are being missed more and more frequently. Aside from the extra points being missed, you are seeing more and more teams go for 2-point conversions, and not just at the end of games. I mean, it's just like sporadically they'll go for it. That has made the 7 less of a key number, in my opinion. Again, I'm not saying it couldn't come back. I think there is probably some regression due for the 7, but I think those two fundamental changes of the NFL and of coaches have made the 7 not as big of a key number as it used to be. The 3 is still a huge key number. The 3, if you're looking at your screen, the 3 has shown up 16% of the time. 16% of games are separated exactly by 3 points. So if you're looking at key numbers and you're thinking, I really want to get a key number with this tease, whether it's up or down, or I really want to buy a key number, I'm going to buy to the key number, the 3 is a number you should be looking at. That is the most important number there is in the NFL right now. The 7 is only showing up 5% of the time. The 6, to kind of go into my theory on key numbers of the extra point and all that kind of stuff, and the 2-point conversion, the 6 is showing up 9% of the time. Meaning that those extra points that are missed, those 2-point conversions that either do or don't happen, that is leading to a 6-point differential more and more frequently. That is at 9%. In the past, 7s have shown up at about 9%. So the 6 is becoming more and more of a key number. So Vegas has not adjusted to that just yet. So as you're watching this, keep that in mind, because you're going to start hearing about that probably at the end of the season. If this trend stays the whole season long, you're going to hear more sharps, you're going to hear more casinos, you're going to hear more podcasts talking about how the 6 is the key number, or it's just as equal of a key number as 7. So all of that being said, that helps us even more with the Bengals, because if you buy it up to the 7, not only did you get the 5% boost on the 7, but you also grabbed the 9% from the 6. So you have a huge difference there. The other key numbers, 10 is still a key number. It's been pretty key. Again, when we say key numbers, it usually at the end of the year in years past, they've each shown up about 8 to 9% of the time. That was the 3, the 7, the 10. And then the 6 and the 14 were usually showing up like 6 to 7% of the time. So the 14 has only shown up 3% of the time, and I think that is going to show up a little bit more. That one is probably due more for regression as we move forward. And so I think it might not be this week, it might not be next week, it might just be kind of sporadically throughout the rest of the year, but I do believe you're going to see the 14-point differential show up more frequently as we move forward this season, which is exactly why we bought that Rams down to 14 even. I do again think that they're going to cover that, but just in the off chance that they get backdoored or something else crazy happens, the 14 is, in my opinion, quote unquote, due to show up a little bit more as we move forward throughout the rest of this year. And the last key number, if you want to call it that, to me would be 20. The 20, not 20 exactly, because that's only 5% of the time, but over 20 points. 14% of games are separated by over 20 points. 14% of the games. If 16% of them are separated by 3 points, and the next, quote unquote key number or numbers is over 20, that's huge. That means that teams are either getting blown out or they're super, super close. So knowing that, look at games this week through that lens of the Cardinals being 18-point favorites, the Rams being 14.5-point favorites. Those are big double-digit numbers, and they're meant to somewhat scare you off. Like I said, again, look at the books and the traps that they're setting. They want you to see, damn, the Cardinals are 18-point favorites over the Texans. That's way too much. I'm just not touching it. They don't want you to bet the Cardinals. Again, and I've not really handicapped that game, so I don't know if 18 is a solid number or not. But I'm just telling you, from the outside looking in, they don't want you touching the Cardinals. They don't want you laying the 18 points. They're hoping that most people are scared off by that 18. And I'm here to tell you that 14% of games are separated by more than 20 points, meaning that there's going to be at least 2 games every week that are going to be separated by 14 or more. 20 or more points, and that's just numbers. That's facts. So again, I haven't handicapped that one. I probably won't really look too far into that one. But if you are very interested in that, if anything, I might look to just play the first quarter, the Cardinals' first quarter in that one, and so that may still be a play. But if you're gonna play the whole game in that one, don't let the double-digit spread scare you off. Again, I do think that is one more that I'll be looking to add. Is the Cardinals' first quarter, just because the Texans have been terrible in the first quarter, the Cardinals have been great. But again, those numbers aren't even out yet. Last thing, guys, here, and I promise this is the last thing. NBA starts tonight. I am a Lakers fan. Cowboys and Lakers, right? Who would have thought somebody's a front runner? Hey, it's me. I like winning. What can I say? Lakers, though, more importantly, they, under their new coaching system, and really over the last 2-3 years, they have emphasized the first quarter, getting out to a lead. And what do I mean by that? They put their star players in the first quarter and essentially let them play most of, if not the entire first quarter. So Anthony Davis, LeBron James, tonight will be Russell Westbrook. These guys will play the entire first quarter, and they are trying to build a lead. Towards the end of the first quarter, at least last year, the way the rotation worked is they would take LeBron out for like the last 2 minutes of the first quarter, and he wouldn't come back in until like the 6-minute mark or 8-minute mark in the second quarter, and then they would leave Anthony Davis in there, and then he would come out when LeBron would come in, and then they'd kind of just be rotating back and forth the whole game until the second half of the fourth quarter, and then they'd put all their stars back in there to close out the game. And that's usually the way that they've been doing it. That's not just last year. That's really since LeBron and AD teamed up. That's the way that they've been doing the rotation. I don't see them straying too far from that. The other side of the ball, they are playing the Warriors tonight. The Warriors have been just bad at starting the season the last 2 years. They've lost both the game. They've been in pretty much blowout fashion. Obviously, they're getting some guys back that are healthy. I'm not even sure if Klay Thompson's playing tonight or not. But really, the bigger point here is that the Warriors' first quarter specifically has been a little bit tougher on them. And that's mainly because, one, they don't have as many star players. Two, they are more of a jump shooting team, and that can really go either way for you, depending on how your shooting is going that night. So they have not really gotten off to hot starts in these first quarters of the first games or the first game period. So with all of that being said, again, I am strictly, for the most part, football related. This is one of the few times I'm going to say, if you're interested in the NBA at all and you just want to put something on the game, look to lay a couple of dollars on the Lakers first quarter tonight, game 1 of the season. Again, I try to stick to mostly football. That's more my lane. But the Lakers are a team I follow closely. They are probably the only team I will bet on or against throughout the NBA season. So I just wanted to put that note out there. But again, hopefully, guys, this was helpful for you. Hopefully, you'll follow me with some of these picks. Thank you again. Thank you for listening for 35 minutes with me. I appreciate all the support and all the comments you guys have been leaving lately. Good luck. Let's keep it going, and please keep leaving your picks out there, guys. I'm looking at your picks, and I'm really starting to dig into a lot of them because a lot of you guys are really good at this. So thank you for everything. Appreciate it. Good day, and good luck.